So let's talk about the SAVE Act. You might be hearing a lot about this piece of legislation. It's passed the House, it has not yet passed the Senate, and it hasn't been signed into law. The SAVE Act would change the requirements for registration to vote under federal law. How would it do that? Essentially, the SAVE Act would require documentary proof of citizenship to be presented by a person at the time that they register to vote. This changes the current federal requirements for voter registration because the current federal requirements for voter registration only require a form that includes an attestation that someone is a citizen, and that attestation is subject to penalties for perjury. So what would this documentary proof of citizenship look like? Well, under the SAVE Act, it can take a couple different forms. One is a real ID showing that someone is a U.S. citizen. The next is a valid U.S. passport. The next is a valid federal, state, or tribal ID that shows that one's place of birth was in the U.S. And the last form is a valid photo ID showing one's current name accompanied by a certified birth certificate or some other approved birth record. So the documentary proof of citizenship requirement has drawn some interest for a couple reasons. First of all, most state real IDs don't show citizenship status. For people who lack, for instance, a valid current passport or who lack access to their birth certificate, they might have a more difficult time showing documentary proof of citizenship. It's also the case that folks who have a current ID showing one name and a birth certificate showing a different name, for instance, those who changed their names upon getting married, those folks would not have a photo ID and a birth certificate that match up names. And so those folks would have to produce additional documentary proof of citizenship in order to register to vote. The SAVE Act, which we've just been discussing, has been passed by the House, but it has not been passed by the Senate, and it hasn't been signed into law. Wherever you live, it's important to study your state's requirements for voter registration, and if you're eligible, register to vote so that you can make your voice heard.